Thank you, Manas. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today from across the world. It is our distinct pleasure to be here and the opportunity to present our point of view on the autonomous journey of the next generation enterprise. Automation as a concept is not really a new one, and the earliest mention of this goes back to 762 BC, where the Greek poet Homer described Hephaestus, the god of fire and craftsmanship, using automatons or self-operating robots that assisted him in the process of developing powerful weapons for the Greek gods. Around 300 BC, Aristotle predicted that with self-playing harps and automated weavers, the need for human slaves could come down dramatically. However, it was not until 2000 years later that we started seeing the imaginations and predictions of our ancestors around automation to start fructifying. The invention of the stocking frame knitting machine in the 16th century gave the first glimpse of automation in creating things. We witnessed several innovations during the Industrial Revolution around engines, power looms, and mass production, all aimed at mechanization of manual work and reducing the labor needed for manufacturing. This stage of automation of creation, as we like to call it, was marked by building tools and machines for creating more and more goods. To sell these surplus goods, the need to access new markets and the need for frequent interactions with customers grew sharply, and which ultimately led to the automation of commute through multimodal transport systems, as well as automation of communication through radio, telephone, and internet. While the automation of creation, commute, and communication has helped our race, human race, to unlock its potential, the human beings of today are already dreaming of affordable space travel. In a few decades, humans will expect to colonize Mars, and I will not be surprised if at some points humans are also able to crack the code fully on time travel. The next phase of automation is largely centered around liberating human beings from the mundane to achieve their full potential and augmenting them in creative, critical, and higher order tasks. This, gentlemen and ladies, is the phase of automation of thinking. So Nishchay, you have been tracking this automation of thinking space very, very closely over the last few years. Can you talk to our audience a little bit about the state of automation market as of today and some of the trends that you're observing?
Yes, absolutely, Praveen. Pleasure to be here and thanks for the opportunity. The automation of physical and knowledge work has been at the forefront of the enterprise digital transformation of the 21st century. As per our recent CXO survey, Praveen, over 65% CXOs are focused on automation as their #1 transformation priority. Just the automation of knowledge work alone has seen investments of more than $15 billion in 2020. And this is expected to grow to over $110 billion in the next 5 years. The surge in automation has created over 1 million automation skilled professionals across the globe. This, along with the technological innovations, is already helping enterprises to massively grow their profit per employees over the last 5 years. And unlike popular belief, these industries and associated companies have done this while adding more employees instead of losing them due to automation. A very fascinating trend indeed. And Praveen, I'm also observing that events such as COVID have also enabled enterprises to think of automation, not as a cost driver, but also that of elevating stakeholder experiences across customers, partners, and employees. Automation was at the core of driving business resilience during the last 18 months of the pandemic situation.
Great. This is so great to know, Nishchay. While COVID has certainly created a sense of urgency, which has driven enterprise adoption of automation, the coming together of various cutting edge technologies that to at affordable price points, the mindset change for enterprises to look at automation use cases more systematically than this being rather an ad hoc initiative, the need to improve even the developer productivity and ultimately setting up clear accountability at an enterprise level, in my view, has really accelerated the adoption of automation. And we should probably talk about each of these trends, Nishchay, in a little bit more details. And you did talk about COVID-led acceleration earlier. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that, and then I can pick up the other trends as well?
Absolutely, Praveen. As we all know, during the pandemic period, enterprises were left with no option but to do everything digital and to automate their core functions. The enterprise action during the pandemic was essentially broken down into three phases, among which the first one was really about the knee-jerk response to the situation. The second was to reboot from the situation. And the third one, which is what we're going through right now, was that of resiliency and reimagination. Automation permeated across the three phases and became the de facto standard for enterprises. And let's look at the example of small businesses that were perhaps impacted the most during the pandemic. More than 100,000 small businesses, Praveen, had to shut shops last year in the US. In response to this crisis, the US federal government came up with the SBA loans, but the administration for the same was a mammoth task, given that more than 400,000 applications were received in the first 5 days of the program going live. In order to take care of such sheer numbers, automation stepped in and helped in the automated dispersal of more than 1 million loans over the fiscal year, which were worth more than $350 billion. It is unimaginable how a response like this could have been enabled without automation. And similarly, during the recovery phase, Praveen, millions of people had to be vaccinated, but this was a painstakingly slow task, which involved multiple steps before the vaccine could be administered. Top healthcare providers such as Cleveland Clinic were grappling with the fact that only 10,000 patients were being vaccinated every month. So they really stepped up and automated the entire vaccine administration process, including the verification of patients and registration. So more than 150,000 patients could be vaccinated in 2 months alone, with 900% faster vaccine rollouts, which was phenomenal. The hypergrowth of e-commerce transactions has made some habits permanently irreversible, and it's hard to imagine if people would walk back into a bank branch, for instance, for services such as account opening or withdrawals. Automation and digitization are becoming the de facto standards of delivering such services going forward, as is evident from Standard Bank, which is now fully embracing automation for such use cases, Praveen.
Great, and in line with that, I'm actually also seeing that automation, the way we think of it today, is really going through a lot of transformation. Some of the early movers have really realized that automation is not a siloed technology, but it's rather a confluence of multiple technology areas that need to come together for scaled automation. The availability of multiple complementary automation technology areas is in fact opening up several new opportunities for the enterprise. In fact, let me talk to you about Vodafone here, which really presents a great story about this sort of technology orchestration that we're just talking about, right? Like everyone else, Vodafone started their automation journey in a typical fashion with deploying a few RPA bots, deploying them across standard back office processes such as finance, HR, customer service, etc. And as the successes of these initiatives started dripping in, they wanted to do more automation, only to realize that they had enormous offline workflow baggage, if you will, that was hindering the scale of their automation. This is where they, in fact, brought in technologies like intelligent document processing and are at a point now where they can actually process over roughly about 400,000 physical documents on a daily basis. And as they digitized their workflows, Nishchay, the demand for automation started coming from all sides. And it was imperative for them to look at sophisticated technologies such as, for example, process and task mining to pick up use cases that could deliver the biggest bang for the buck. As a result of this approach, you can imagine that customer experience use cases naturally started showing up as critical ones. And this is where they also introduced technologies like conversational AI, like NLP, powered chatbots, and automated their customer connect workflows. And today, technologies such as low code and no code are further democratizing automation at Vodafone and is really enabling them to take bold strides in automating a portfolio of their IT and business functions, Nishchay. And this is exactly what we also found. You talked about the survey earlier. Even our survey talked about 85% of the companies actually deploying multiple technologies to draw full benefits of automation. In fact, it'll be great, Nishchay, if you can talk about how enterprises should think of this orchestration holistically and what, in fact, is the new automation stack really look like.
Sure, Praveen, absolutely. So enterprises today are defining automation more as a converged and holistic technology focus, with these three layers consisting of automation technology, intelligence technology, and infrastructure. At the core, we have automation technologies such as process mapping and intelligence, which includes process mining, task mining, and IBPMS. This has data-led transformation, which includes intelligent document processing. And the third component being around workflow, process, and task automation, which includes low-code, no-code, RPA, and intelligent virtual agents, and so on. These automation technology areas really augment each other in a flywheel kind of effect, which is further bolstered by the AI-led intelligence technology, which includes computer vision, NLP, NLG, and conversational AI. And these automation and intelligence technology layers are further powered by the next-gen infrastructure. And this three-pronged framework leading to greater technology orchestration is defined as hyper-intelligent automation framework. And Praveen, you spoke earlier about the process discovery aspects while talking about Vodafone. That is such a good call out because we see that enterprises are really struggling in process discovery since they still leverage the archaic techniques of running crowdsourcing workshops, which hinder scale. As per the CXO survey, it was amazing that almost 90% of the enterprises are still relying on these very manual crowdsourcing techniques for process discovery. We have been talking to the erstwhile chief automation officer at Dentsu, for instance, which is one of the world's largest advertising agency, around this topic, and we learned a few interesting things along the way. While they realized the importance of process-first approach early on, they started with very manual, time-consuming, and non-scalable initiatives such as running workshops, running hackathons, using ideation portals, really to crowdsource ideas and so on, right? An even bigger challenge was that the crowdsourcing led to selection of processes which were more focused on the tactical outcomes and based on tribal knowledge. The inefficiencies led to a major pivot couple of years later when they started exploring process mining and task mining tools in conjunction with the manual techniques. What it did was it led to rapid scale in the discovery and also led to more proactive discovery. The tools were able to automatically identify process inefficiencies and flag off process changes. Interestingly, they were able to identify more than 2,000 processes in 5 months alone with only 2 resources, which is simply amazing. So this is how enterprises need to borrow a leaf from the Dentsu experience, Praveen, and shift from manual to more tools-based and autonomous discovery with AI-infused processes for more proactive discovery. We found that 25% of the enterprises have started leveraging tools-based technique, and another 40% say they will start leveraging tools-based approach within the next 2 years. Praveen, I'm truly excited about the scale of meaningful automation that enterprises can achieve with this approach.
Absolutely, and thank you for sharing this, Nishchay. It is very clear that as enterprises are able to discover more and more processes, there'll be more processes available, in fact, for automation at the downstream level. I'm guessing that this in turn will warrant the need of more software developers for advancing the digitization of such processes. In fact, as per industry estimates, more than 500 million applications will be built in the next 5 years, which is in fact more than all the applications that the world has built in the last 40 years. Right? So think about the scale of that for a moment. And given this huge surge in demand, there are 2 ways enterprises can really address this gap. First is to maybe really add developer capacity, but that of course is easier said than done, and there's expected shortage. Vijay talked about it in his keynote yesterday, the shortage of about 1 million developers by 2030, right? And the other alternate approach really is to improve the productivity of existing developers so that they can share this massive load of application development and digitization that is coming as we speak. And this is exactly where, Nishchay, low-code is, in my view, gaining a lot of prominence, where professional developers today are leveraging this technology to really short-circuit the time to build core, mission-critical, high-complexity applications in about 4 to 5 times lesser amount of time they have to invest. And I think it'll be an understatement to say that as the world builds these 500 million applications, the biggest value unlock will come from professional developers leveraging low-code to become more efficient. In fact, I just want to talk to you about an example from Zurich Insurance. And like everyone else, they are going through their digital transformation journey. And of course, they're looking to become more digital. They're hiring more developers, software engineers, technologists. And when we checked last time, there were like 1,000 job openings listed on Zurich, in terms of hiring for these roles. And one can only imagine how the heating talent war is making it extremely difficult for companies to close these open positions in a relatively short period of time. And this is where technologies such as low-code have come to rescue for Zurich Insurance. As an example, their IT teams actually leveraged low-code technology to build an extremely critical policy administration application targeted at terrorism coverage. Despite this being a very complex workflow, in fact, it involved 700 underwriters, 20,000 policy documents, 10,000 transactions across properties, which was needed to really calculate the premiums and capture the customer data. And Zurich was really able to build this app in 3 months' time, which enhanced the experience both for the underwriters as well as their partners as well. And in a non-low code scenario, Nishchay, this would have ideally taken them 1 year to build this kind of an application. And because they use low code, not just that they saved time of the developers, but they were actually able to do it at about $500,000 lesser cost as well, right? And this is really how companies like Zurich, Medtronic, many others are enabling their professional developers to unlock maximum value from this low code technology and focusing both on customer facing scenarios as well as the internal processes. Of course, you must be wondering, I'm talking about low code, but there's this growing phenomena of no code where the business users or citizen developers with very minimal skills are also able to start building simple, low complexity applications. In our view, while that is of low value today, the whole combination of low code and no code is expected to evolve in the future to cater to even more strategic use cases. And Nisha, I must tell you that all the trends that we have talked about so far, none of that is really possible unless we have a connected enterprise to bring all of this together in a structured fashion. This is where we see a center of excellence, or COE as it's called, acting as a binding force to stitch all of this together. As per our survey, almost 40% of the enterprises have already invested into an automation-focused COE. Let me quickly take an example of Pfizer here, which is one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. They started their automation journey way back in 2016, but this was very isolated back then. There was really no structure in place. The roadmap wasn't very clearly defined, and therefore they could not really scale their automation initiatives until when they finally set up Robotics Center of Excellence a couple of years later. Through the COE, they focused on change management and involved employees in the automation process from very early on to imbibe a culture of automation, transparent communication, education to all the impacted employees were prioritized, and programs were really put in place for reskilling and upskilling. True business and IT collaboration was at the heart of this transformation, and a federated structure of the COE really enabled it for them. Pfizer, of course, started off automating the low-hanging fruits within the shared services functions, such as finance, HR, supply chain, etc., which is where these were owned by the Global Business Services Organization. And when they started tasting success with these initial deployments, they gradually started scaling their automation to other high complex core processes, such as FDA compliance or pharmacovigilance or clinical trials and so on. And all along this journey, the COE also really focused on technology evolution, much like what we talked about in the case of Vodafone, where they brought in several technologies together. And they are at a point today, Nishchay, that they are doing 450 enterprise-grade automations in production and are continuing to scale their automation footprint at an enterprise level. I know, Nishchay, you have done a lot of analysis on automation maturity of large global companies. Similar to Pfizer, what are the top highlights that comes to your mind from that analysis?
Sure, happy to share perspectives around automation maturity, Praveen. So based on the 5 drivers that we've discussed, we rated the Fortune 250 enterprises on their automation maturity, plotted against, of course, the business scale, as we can see. The maturity map clearly shows that the enterprises today are spread across, with majority of the enterprises, around 80 to 90%, still in the low or medium automation maturity. And these enterprises have significant opportunity to up-level their automation narrative. The 10 to 15% level 3 or high maturity enterprises have done extremely well to focus holistically on the 5 value drivers. And consequently, they've been able to grow their profit per employee consistently over the last 5 years. Praveen, you touched upon Pfizer earlier, and they've been able to grow their profit per employee at an impressive 11.5% CAGR over the past 5 years. This has direct correlation to the fact that Pfizer has a holistic focus across the value drivers and that the talent is contributing to the profitability of the company today.
That's really amazing to note, Nishchay, and thank you for laying that out for us. Clearly, automation presents a great opportunity for enterprises, and the playbook seems to become a lot clearer. Just tying it back, and the chat that we had from today and what Pari talked about in his opening keynote on day one of this conference, I think we need inspirational leadership even for automation to make a significant positive impact for the enterprises. An enterprise really needs to remove all information arbitrage and digitize processes for more transparency. This would also lead to a more effective process discovery with enhanced outcomes. Next generation operating model built on top of multiple complementary technology areas is table stakes for an enterprise. Skill transformation, including reskilling and upskilling of all affected employees, is going to be foundational for any enterprise. Communicating purpose of automation and complete transparency are all vital elements of an effective change management strategy. The Center of Excellence should be set up in a federated model and act with an entrepreneur level empowerment to imbibe a culture of automation within the enterprise. Rapid collaboration between business and IT is imperative for success. And finally, ecosystem leverage to tie all of this together with the best-in-class platform providers and service partners is extremely important. An enterprise that focuses on the inspired levers in a structured fashion will really reap the benefits of the 5 value drivers that we talked about in the presentation today, and in turn become fully autonomous. Our vision of a fully autonomous enterprise is an evolved enterprise that embraces automation as an ongoing transformation journey, and consequently becomes self-driving, self-healing, and self-sustaining with the elevated humans right at its core. Thank you so much.
Thank you.